Hold up.
Hey guys, it is Tristan with Nerdouts Newsstand, and as promised, we are going to continue our chat about Fear State. Because it was such a huge event, I did put it into 2 separate digestible videos, a lot easier than one long hour video. So right now, I will link the actual first part in the pinned comment, but we're going to start off with the secret case files from all 3 new characters, Miracle Molly, Peacekeeper 1, and the Gardener. And in these issues, we find out Molly used to be a very Batman Returns Selena type, wilted flower character of a girl who let people walk all over her, had some brilliant ideas, but people would take advantage of her, had people that cared for her, but she was kind of lost in that self-pity and self-deprecation to actually realize it or appreciate it. After taking the initiative to approach her boss to hear her out, he does not only fire her, but the folders and the ideas that she had during the time working there, he takes away from her. So she returns to get them. Her boss gets aggressive and she accidentally kills him. During all of this, she got an invite by the Unsanity Collective to join them, and feeling like her life is over, she agrees and she becomes our Miracle Molly. We also have Sean Mahoney, who had a miserable life. His father, grandfather, all of their partners were basically crooked cops. And he was raised with the biased belief that they were all great cops, right? And his father never gave him an inch. At one point, he's actually hypnotized by the Mad Hatter to steal things, and his father blames him regardless of him being hypnotized. When his father is caught taking a bribe and gets fired, he makes it seem like Gordon is power crazy, power mad, and he takes bribes, and that is what the GCPD people just do. He tried to apply it to the force, but Gordon actually refuses him. Built up so much internal rage that when he worked at Arkham, he would beat up on the inmates and then defend himself to Jeremiah Arkham, right? So by the time A-Day comes, he was actually on probation during the attack. Despite his injury, he then becomes a hero. His father is still outraged at him over all this because now he's actually a liability with medical costs, and his father trumps that to being a hero, right? So in the present day, Sean is tearing through the city until he confronts his father. The two of them have it out, and he tells his father, "You were a failure. You got caught. I was just your scapegoat." And he leaves, feeling that Scarecrow actually has a point. The new era of fear is essentially needed. Then we have the Gardener issue. And the Gardener issue is really less about the Gardener and more about Poison Ivy. And so much of it is giving context to that Pam meant to be good. Pam meant to do good. But Batman stopping her is what drove her insane, right? And it's all meant to tell Batman to stop hurting her and to help her. This way made things a little worse. Granted, she's giving this all through a very biased view, right? So now we are finally on to the main event, that is Fear State. And this is all within the Batman books. Batman has been injected by a new fear toxin with Scarecrow, and new means to kind of be inside his brain and give him these weird visions. Simon Saint is having a breakdown that things are out of control already, and everyone finds out Batman is still alive, despite what the seer, totally not the anti-oracle, said. Bruce asked Ghostmaker to meet up with him and try to purge whatever Scarecrow did to Bruce. Ricardo, who is Saint's loyal guard, and I believe lover, but I'm not sure, who had a prosthetic arm, is put through the Peacekeeper program because he is supposed to stop Peacekeeper 1, so he becomes Peacekeeper X. Bruce brings everything to Renee's attention, but because he doesn't have something solid, she said she'll do what she can, but she needs more to take Simon Saint down. So they use Ghostmaker and Batman use this VR mental helmet. Ghostmaker enters into Bruce's mind to help him. During this, it becomes a storytelling reason to reveal Crane's fear state theory. Turns out, after the first encounter years ago, Ghostmaker went to Crane to learn how to feel so he could understand empathy, of all things. He wanted to learn how to understand empathy. And that's how he finds out everything. So Peacekeeper 1 and X fight it out. Batman tries to get in between the rest of the troops and the drones to stop him. Peacekeeper 1 ends up actually killing Ricardo. Peacekeeper X and Saint, feeling pained in order to have to do this, orders X's suit as well as all of the drones to self-destruct, all to keep the tech out of Batman's hand. Molly then, after a talk with Ivy, realizes what Scarecrow's plans is and uses up all the gathered up trauma the Unsanity Collective had collected and then to weaponize it. And Saint at this point has clearly stopped. He has gone crazy. Despite ordering X's suit to be destroyed, he then yells to find any remains, which you really can't. And then he is driven more to find out about Ivy and how she could stop them. Molly and Batman make it to the collective headquarters, fight off one of their members, Breaker, who is under the control of Scarecrow. And Molly starts to work a way to track the weapon. Ivy is ready to go crazy and cause the Magistrate then to invade her Eden. Crane tests things on Peacekeeper 1, and Molly, he wants to push Sean over the edge to be the perfect example of his fear state theory, to lead everyone onto the other side, right? So Batman damages some of Jonathan Crane's tech, shutting down the process. This allows Peacekeeper to shoot Crane, but it also reveals this has pushed him over the edge to feel that he can do what Saint and Crane never ever could. This leads to a big fight between Batman and Peacekeeper while Molly tries to defuse the bomb, and we see Crane survive. Harley and company bring Ivy to Queen Ivy, and who at that point is about ready to destroy Gotham. Her roots are all underneath it. So Batman and Peacekeeper keep on fighting, all while Harley talks to Ivy. The two Ivys talk and merge back together with the touch of a hand. Okay? Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting, but it definitely wasn't that. And basically rain down pheromones to calm people down, and then she kisses Ivy. First canonical kiss. Ooh, ooh. But yeah, Ivy definitely gets everybody high as fuck. So after taking down Peacekeeper, it's revealed that Molly rewired things so that instead of a fear bomb, it'll use the Unsanity Collective's tech to do to all of Gotham what was done to her. Take away that trauma, whether they want it or not. Batman hooks her up to his cowl so that she can see everything is already calming down. And when you boil things down, when you take away the influence that makes things worse, then it's just the people. They can overcome the fear and the trauma. And this stops Molly and actually kind of ends out fear state. Now, I do think there is a bit of an issue here because the idea that Molly is doing this to everyone and not actually having them go through what she did unwillingly, but you can't do that to people without their consent. But then again, a few pages before that, we see Ivy spread her pheromones without everyone's consent too. So there's a double-edged sword in there somewhere. I just don't know why they thought one was okay and not the other. So then we have Fear State Omega. We see Crane attempt to break out and Batman stops him. We find out what happened in the fallout. Basically, Molly testified, letting the rest of the Unsanity Collective leaders go. In exchange, she would go to prison. Please don't sideline this character. Just gonna put it out there. I love her. Don't sideline her. I'm telling you right now. And she'll likely gain, maybe some actual story within the confines of Belle Reve, or we won't see her again. I don't know. The collective has gone all underground, though, at this point. Batman is aware of Jace and will eventually meet him. The remains of the Magistrate Program have been actually bought with money to Amanda Waller. Peacekeeper 1 has broken out and is in hiding now. Things with Ivy are wrapped up. It's made clear. Her mind is clearer than it has been in ages. She is also not happy with what Gardner did at all. She's not happy with the Gardner. She kind of escapes and leaves anyway. So Batman arranges for Ghostmaker to train Clown Hunter to try to help him get through his issues. Batman makes it clear to Crane that he is not afraid of what's to come. And as he drops off with Chase Meridian ending the issue, it is made clear also that Batman thinks Gotham can survive without him. So I am curious where they are going with Shadows of the Bat for that. But I kind of just want to do a final thought here. That's the end of Fear State as a story. But whereas the Joker War was a relatively straight story, Fear State was 3 stories in one that were all relatively independent of each other. You had the stuff with Fear State and the Magistrate Program, Simon Saint, Scarecrow, Peacekeeper Molly, etc., etc. Then you had the stuff with Queen Ivy and Catwoman and Harley. There's your second storyline. And then you had the Seer stuff with the Batgirls, Batwoman, and Nightwing. With all of this really intertwining to a decent point, but there was clear editorial issues. Queen Ivy eventually got involved directly by having it be what not only caused Simon Saint to fully snap, but give him means to calm down Gotham. But that was an independent of what Batman was doing at the time, right? Seer was completely irrelevant to the main event. Honestly, when going over everything, I was trying to decide whether to even add that into the story breakdown, because it was like, okay, the Seer was maybe the Seer and maybe the anti-Oracle. They showed up. They were a kid. It is over. But I continued to add it because the Nightwing stories were so good. The stories with Babs and Dick being, their big fear being losing each other. I wanted to make sure I added that in. But yeah, Seer was completely irrelevant to the main event and merely took advantage of things so that the stage could be set up for Batgirls and Batwoman and whatever happens next in Nightwing, because we did see that the Seer is headed to Bloodhaven. The main story was Crane, Peacekeeper, Simon Saint, and Molly. They were all the best parts in concept, right? The idea of pushing a city over the edge so that they can come out better on the other side is sound. And if Gotham was in the position to do this, doing it after 3 major events in a row would be it. In concept, I said, right? In execution, too much of the event relied on Peacekeeper 1 for the main event. It was chasing him around and dealing with the other magistrate drones, basically. If it wasn't for Seer and Queen Ivy parts, this would most likely have dealt with the rest of the Bat family dealing with those drones or those troops. The Seer portion brought a lot of chaos, but since it wasn't resolved, again, it was just a lot of status quo changes done because Saint wasn't capable of doing it on his own. Now, the Unsanity Collective and Molly were a very interesting idea, probably my favorite part to come out of Fear State, right? And Molly has a good chance of coming back. It's unclear who else can handle the collective at this point, but I'm hoping that a writer who takes on the Batman title next, whether, we know Joshua Williamson is coming on, but whoever comes on after, I am hoping that they are able to take on the collective and to take on Molly maybe as a figurehead and maybe, Wise pushed to the side. That's just my idea. And be able to write them well. On Scarecrow's front, this was a great idea and very much in character for something he would do. But in the end, all he did was hijack what Saint wanted him to do. And as far as we know from Future State, he derailed everything. Had he let him go, Saint would have won. Saint was a means to an end. Really nothing more at this point. There's no point to that character beyond this arc. None whatsoever. Now, as far as the Gardner, not sure. I don't think they're going to do anything with that character after this. I'm not going to lie. Ivy, How many times has she been fixed for only future writers to mess things up? I do like the idea of having two Ivies, one where she's a little bit more crazy, one where she's a little bit more fun-loving. This was originally explored already, so this wasn't a new concept. We did see it in the Harley Ivy mini, and they didn't really feed off of that. I wish they would have. Ghostmaker and Clown Hunter working together sounds honestly like a great dynamic duo. I really like these two characters, and I think them teaming up, if that's when, that and Molly are the only things we get out of Fear State, great. I'm all for it. Peacekeeper 1, interesting ish to see what's been done, but feared he'll just be one of Batman's brute class villains, and that's it, right? I'm not sure that he'll even come back at this point. I don't think he honestly will. Maybe. It is left open-ended for him. So overall, not a terrible event. A very messy event. Very convoluted. You can see by the two videos. It was very convoluted. It was not my favorite event. Not even in the realm of my favorite events. But if, like I said earlier, if all we get out of this is Ghostmaker and Clown Hunter working together and a little bit of Miracle Molly in the future, I will be happy with how this ended. There were a lot of editorial issues with Batwoman, I pointed out in my last video, and her sister. There were Red Ellis. There were a lot of issues with, like, Detective Comics. This last one we had, it said this takes place in between Batman 112 and 113. That happened in September. This is November, or well, it's December now, but when the issue came out, there were a lot of issues like that. My honest thoughts is I feel like Tynion really wanted to go in big, and he did go in big. We just talked about 35 different issues of Batman, but then he got the Substack deal, and then he started focusing on maybe Slaughterhouse, Something is Killing the Children, maybe even the Department of Truth, and I feel like he got centered elsewhere and let this kind of go to the side. Now, I don't know. I still say Joker War was a little bit better because it had more potential, and I do like Tynion's run. I think it's a very solid run. Honestly, Batman 105, I've said it time and time again, you should absolutely read. It's a fantastic story. Tynion does a great job. Let's just hope the seeds that he planted with characters like Miracle Molly and Queen Ivy are actually grown into some sort of tree where the next writer picks up. That's all I want. That's all I want. I am a simple girl with simple rules. Anyways, let me know, of course, what you guys thought about Fear State as a whole. This will probably be the last time I cover it, just because it is so inclusive and in-depth and convoluted and messy and a little bit crazy, and I'm gonna go. I will see you guys in the next one.